it's the whole experience. When I look back on it, it's an extremely special experience
Mm.
uh, to actually experience and be part of something the Lord did and see the change in, especially seeing Whitney's life really turn around and become victorious. But what happened is I live in a small town, and I actually I'm retired now, but I was a builder all my life.
Mm.
And I was in the Walmart parking lot. I can't remember why I was there, but there's a lumber yard right down the end of the shopping center there. And I got out of my truck. I was walking towards Walmart, and Whitney, basically a young lady, comes up to me and she's frantic, and she's just begging me for help, and said she got off the bus and the bus took off without her, and could I uh, help her catch the bus? And I thought, well, let me do this. Let me call my wife. It seemed like the logical thing to do, to come down with the car. My truck was loaded with lumber. It was, squatting a bit.
Mm.
Um, and so I called my wife, and she says, well, I'll come down. I'll give you the car. And so we're waiting, and all of a sudden the bus goes by. It looks like it got on the freeway, and Whitney goes, I think that was my bus. I go, okay, well, let's go. And we jumped into my truck, and I called my wife. I said, honey, we took off. We're going to catch this bus.
Mhm.
And we go down, we're looking for a bus, we don't find it. We go to Santa Rosa, which is there's a depot there, and it's where it is. All the buses, the city buses, the Greyhound bus, and it's right there, sort of in the compound where the police department is as well. And we parked there, and I just actually pulled in the police parking lot, went over and talked to the dispatcher, and she said, "Well, you already missed the bus." And at this point, what are we going to do? She called ahead to see if she could do anything. I go, well, let's go. And we jumped back in the truck, and we headed down towards Oakland.
With
And of course, it's a
lumber.
long ride.
Mhm.
And so just engaging in normal conversation. Hi, who are you? What's your name? What are you doing? And in that process, she lets me know that her parents were missionaries. And she had gotten out of a rehab. She wasn't going into any details. All I knew is she was really manic. She would be really up and then down. And when she told me her parents were missionaries in Togo, um, I went, oh, our church in our community, we live in a little village called Redwood Valley, near Ukiah, and I said we support some missionaries from Togo, and I carry in the back one of my pockets in my truck. I carry one of our church directories, and
Mm.
I got it out, and she says, I think I know that name. And so we talked, and I talked to her about the Lord, and I had the feeling of, here's this young girl, and her parents are overseas, and I felt honored and privileged to try to help them out, because what could they do? They're not even present. So we get down to Oakland, and she sees one of the guys who was on the bus, and she actually got angry at him because her stuff was still on the bus, and some shops, she had an expectation that he should have looked out for her. And I'm trying to remember, it was like she had a suitcase, and I think it was maybe even a stuffed animal or something like that, but they were precious to her. And so I got talking to him, and he had recently got out of prison, and we talked a little bit, and he believed in the Lord, and he tuned me into what was really going on with her, that she'd gotten out of a drug rehab, and that she was high. And so we went on into the dispatch in the back, and talked to the lady, who I could tell from talking to her, she was also a believer in the Lord.
Okay.
And we were trying to locate the bus, and she said what had happened is the bus had left and it had gone over to San Francisco where they cleaned the bus and everything. So she did everything she could. She said, you'll have to wait for the bus to come back. So I'm hanging around, and soon after that, I said to her, I said, look, let me go out and fuel up my truck and get something to eat. So I left and I came back just shortly while, went to Taco Bell and got some diesel. And I came back, and she was upset. She thought that I had left her and abandoned her.
Oh, wow.
And, it was because of the influence of whatever she was, high on. And so we waited, and the bus came back from San Francisco, and she got her possessions. And she had talked about a friend who was a friend of her father's, and she called him and reached out to him.
Yes.
Anyway, I had gotten enough information from her so that I knew what organization her mom and dad were with, and where they were in Togo. And so I got her things back, and gave her some of that food, to eat. And then and then I said goodbye. She had offered me $20. I said, I don't want your $20. I don't need it or anything, And so anyway, that's pretty much what happened. I was talking to my wife about it. I mean, just who I was growing up. I mean, and my wife and I mean, we used to pick up hitchhikers. We aren't afraid of people. And so that was just part of our life. And so to be confronted with a young lady who's frantic and in need and trying to catch this bus, I wasn't afraid. And it just seemed imminent that, that I should quit whatever my agenda was and help her out. And I feel privileged that I was able to, and then I was able to meet her parents. Her mom and dad came to our village, and we got to meet. And
You've met her mother and father?
I did, yes. They came, and we got to spend an evening together. And they came. Our pastor let them actually have the pulpit and the Sunday school and to speak. And he's very, and our pastor, he's very protective. So it was a really feeling of the Lord. I mean, he doesn't give up the pulpit easy,
Right.
but he did, and he gave it to Garen. And so I mean, that's pretty much the story. I was asked for help, and I was the right place at the right time. And the correspondence I've had with her to know that she went to, she straightened out. She went to university. She got her degree. She's a nurse. She's working. It's fabulous.
Yes.
So, and I consider it a real privilege. It's very emotional for me, and it's a deeper feeling of the reality of God and God's personal relationship. It's often, that word is often, it seems cliche. And I often feel that Christ is more in my head than in my heart, but I know I started without any knowledge of him. So anyway, that's it.
That's amazing story. The way you can step into somebody else's life and make such a change and such a difference in them. Whitney speaks so highly of you, and about how that gesture that you made for her, and it's not just a gesture like a handshake. You drove 3 hours out of your way with a truck full of lumber, squatting down. Like that's a dangerous trip for 3 hours there and then 3 hours back home and such. But it truly did make a difference in Whitney's life. And something, I think that she mentioned that you talked about the Lord the whole time.
All that.
Yeah. And I know that you downplayed that a little bit, but it made such an impact on her life that when she got to the rehab, I'm sure that that's what she was thinking about. And I think that's just one of the reasons why she made the change. The other, of course, is there's a saying that goes, we'll always do more for somebody else than we'll ever do for ourselves. And you certainly did that for Whitney. And